So all of you guys played Silkroad, right? Well, what if I told you some base Giga Chads that used to make content for this game 8 years ago suddenly made a comeback and made a banger of a video? I really want to watch that. Look at this. Almost 100k views in a matter of 5 days for a game that I used to play a ton as a kid. I never watched this video. I was so excited to feature it on stream. I couldn't wait for this day to do it. It's going to be a good one.
There's a certain kind of game that doesn't really leave you. You can stop playing, you can move on.
If you're above
you can even
30,
forget about it for a while.
Get ready.
But then something small happens. You hear a sound, or get a message, or have some sort of memory. And just like that, you're thinking about it again. Today, we're doing a deep dive on a game you probably didn't even know was still around, and a game that may or may not have ruined my life. A 2005 MMO by Joymax that for some reason still has one of the most stubborn communities I've ever seen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Silkroad Online.
God bless. Oh my god. No. Already this is too good. Oh, my ears. Oh, perfect. Oh! Yes!
And if you played this game back in the day, this sound right here probably does something to your brain. The login music starts, the intro screen comes up.
I'm a kid again.
You're right back there.
Who said we can go back?
Checking if your guild was online, making another character on another server because obviously this time the build was going to be absolutely perfect. And then you remember the real boss of Silk Road Online, not Tiger Girl, not Lord Yorkin, and no, not even that random Turk in Donwang who kept asking you for 2 mil. The real boss was the server full screen, and if you were there, you already know exactly what I mean. You'd sit there spamming enter, watching the client fail over and over again, hoping that this attempt was finally the one that got you in. Sometimes you got lucky and slipped in pretty quickly. Sometimes it took 20 minutes, and sometimes it took literal hours just to log into the game, which sounds insane now. Imagine trying to explain that to someone today. Yeah, before I could actually play the game, I'd like to sit there and fight the...
You can't explain old MMOs to the Zoomers. They don't understand. They never will. That feeling you had trying to like enter an MMO and being unsuccessful, even that was fun. Like, you remember the adrenaline rush once you saw that loading screen and it actually worked? Holy, and even swapping channels and like MapleStory and stuff felt exciting. Because whenever you had a full channel, you can actually group up for a party quest and all of that. But, you know, that's for a different discussion. It was so good. Nobody would understand how it was like growing up in the early 2000s playing MMORPGs. Like, no one will. Man, I miss the mid-2000s MMOs cities with sellers standing around for weeks without logging out. Yep.
Login screen for an hour. But back then, that was just part of it. Later on, a lot of
people... Don't go into the light, General. I have to.
Would just retry for you. But before that, a lot of us were doing it manually. Sitting there like absolute idiots, acting like the next enter press was definitely going to be different. And the weird part is...
Man, I love this video so much.
But I also remember it so clearly. That's what's so strange about Silk Road. So much of the game was annoying. The login queues were annoying. The grind was ridiculous. Losing in PvP...
Every single thing was trash and we loved it. Oh, man. I mean... You had an MMO as a kid that you enjoyed. Now growing up, you realize that MMO was a scam, right? I think we all had that MMO. For me, it's Silkroad, MU, every Korean MMO that I enjoyed playing as a kid, L-Sword, all of these MMOs, they were scams. But I loved them nonetheless. It was unconditional love. Like, you have a really ugly ass dog. You know he's ugly. You know every time you go on a walk with him, someone's about to puke. That's fine. You don't care. You love him regardless.
Their life savings in the game was so annoying. Failing a plus after farming gold for days was enough to ruin your night. But somehow, all of that became part of why people remembered it. And I've been trying to figure out why. Because on paper, Silk Road isn't the kind of game that should still have people coming back in 2026. It's old, it's clunky, the systems are outdated, the grind is brutal, the private server scene can be messy. And if you tried to explain half of the game to someone who grew up on modern MMOs, they would probably think you were describing a punishment. But then you actually logged in, and suddenly it makes sense again. Ho-Tan is packed, Jangang is full of stalls, global chat is a disaster, people are selling, arguing, recruiting, flexing, begging, scamming, calling each other out, and somehow all of that chaos makes the game feel alive. That's the part I keep coming back to. I don't think most Silk Road players actually quit. They just disappear for a while. I know because I've done it so many times. You stop playing, you stop checking the Discord, you tell yourself you're completely done with private servers, and you mean it. at least for a bit.
Sure you
Then
have.
one day someone sends
Just
you a
like
link,
World of
or you
Warcraft.
see a clip, or you hear the login music again, and suddenly you're on some server website, checking the cap, reading the rates, looking at the grand opening date, and pretending
Facts with World of Warcraft. Facts. You risk getting a Trojan horse, but it's always worth it. Always. Yeah, you remember the 5k kill quest and stuff? The game was designed for botting? Yep. Yep.
you're just curious.
It
That's
was.
always the lie. I'm just gonna check it out. I've said that so many times. I'm not grinding this one. I'm not staying up late. I'm not getting involved in guild drama. I'm not farming skill points for hours.
You know, I
And
don't
I'm
remember the
definitely
game
not
looking
taking the
this
server
good,
seriously.
actually.
And
I
then 2
remember
weeks
it
later,
looking
you're in
worse
Discord
for
debating
some reason.
builds, planning trade runs, checking who already has sun weapons, and watching global chat explode because someone hit a huge plus, or 2 rival guilds are absolutely losing their minds before a fortress war. And somehow you care again. That's what makes Silkroad so hard to explain to people who weren't there. Because it isn't just nostalgia. Nostalgia gets you to log in once. It gets you to hear the music, walk around Jang Yang, maybe kill a few Mang Yangs, smile for 5 minutes, and then log out. But Silkroad does something different. People come back and actually play. They join guilds again. They grind again. They argue about builds again. They spend money again. They chase the same feeling again.
Nice. He
And
makes
that's what
those
I
chest
wanted to
sliders.
understand.
That's
Why
good.
does this old MMO still pull people back almost 20 years later? Why do players keep repeating the same cycle
Dude.
across 40 cap, 60 cap, 80 cap, 100 cap, and every private server in between? Why do people spend so much time and sometimes so much money trying to dominate a server that might only last a few months? And why does Silkroad still feel alive, even after everything that probably should have killed it? I don't know if there's one clean answer, but I think that's what makes it interesting. Because Silkroad Online isn't just a game people used to play. It's a game people keep finding their way back to. And with this game, I don't think people truly quit.
Bro, did you see how ugly the character used to look like? And the pool was so limited too. You can be either like a disgusting demon, or you have that one thing that looked cool that everyone picked. The kind of like the guy with the how do you call it? Like the eyewear and the white hair. Like this is it. This is why I had like I like what I had back in the day. I remember that.
They just take really long breaks.
What the hell is a Silkroad Online? It's history. My ears! My god, holy, that was loud. Look how good it is. Dude, I always loved how Eastern gamer developers always did this like spinny thing, like you're flying through the zone. I always loved that. I used to play House of the Dead a lot. This is a game you never even heard of unless you're actually balding right now. I always loved that. I never understood why Western MMO developers never took that. I really wish they had. It's so cool. I played Estonia 3, it was based. Damn.
One of the first things that made Silkroad stand out was honestly pretty simple. It was free. And I know that sounds normal now,
Yep.
but back then, that mattered a lot. A
Yes.
lot of MMOs had monthly subscriptions, so you were paying just to log in. With Silkroad, you could download it, make a character, and start playing without committing to anything.
People were poor and had trash PCs. I know. I was one of them. I couldn't even afford World of Warcraft until I became 18 and had my own credit card. So it is what it is. This is what we have. This is my history. That's why I played almost every single Korean MMO that came out before the year 2018. Because that's all I had. I didn't have anything else.
Well, after you got past
They were the
server
only
posting,
one
of
free to
course,
play.
But technically it was free. And I think that alone pulled a lot of people in, especially younger players who weren't exactly trying to explain a monthly MMO subscription to their parents.
Yep.
But obviously, Silkroad wasn't free out of pure generosity. Instead of a subscription, the game had the item mall. You bought Silk with real money, and if you wanted to progress at a decent pace, you felt that system pretty quickly. Premium Plus was probably the most iconic purchase. It lasted about a month and gave you more experience, better stats, and most importantly, better alchemy success. And if you played
Easy.
Silkroad, you knew exactly why that mattered. A failed plus could literally ruin your whole night, so anything that helped with alchemy felt almost required if you were trying to keep up. Even cosmetics weren't just really cosmetic. Avatar sets gave small stat bonuses or helped with alchemy, so people wore them for both looks and efficiency. Then you had everything else layered on top. Grab pets to pick up loot, attack pets for extra damage, scrolls, and inventory expansions. It became this whole system where spending money either saved you time or gave you an edge. That model feels so normal now, but at the time it felt super different. And even with all of that, the game still pulled you in because the world had a feeling to it. Silkroad hit a really good balance visually. It could run on almost any PC, but still looked good enough to feel immersive. Now obviously it looks dated, but there's something about the way it looks that still feels familiar. A big part of that comes from the world itself. Silkroad was based on the real Silk Road, with places like Jiangyang, Danwang, Hotan, and Constantinople, but it mixed that in with mythology and regional stories, so it didn't feel like a generic fantasy MMO.
Wait, actually
it felt
good?
more like a stylized version of a real journey. And even if you weren't thinking about that at the time, you felt
Yeah,
it.
it aged incredibly well. Exactly. I mean, look at this. Dude, that's crazy. That is very, very good looking city. I mean, obviously they just yanked it from real life, but I have no problem with that. It looks incredible.
More like a stylized version of a real journey.
I
And
agree.
even if you weren't thinking about that at the time, you felt it. The cities felt grounded. The roads between them felt like places people were actually meant to travel. And because of the stall system, towns were always packed. If you wanted to sell something, your character had to stand there. So the cities stayed full even when people
there
weren't
it is.
actively playing. That made the world feel busy in a way that a menu-based auction house never really does. And outside of the cities, it still felt active. You'd see traders moving goods, hunters protecting them, and thieves waiting for the right moment. Even early on, you could tell Silkroad wasn't built around isolated PvE. It was built around players constantly running into each other. The sound design tied all of that together. It's the kind of game where you can come back years later, hear a few seconds of the music, and instantly know where you are. So yeah, the graphics are outdated now, but the atmosphere still works.
Yeah,
The free-to-play
trade or
model got
die
people in,
trying.
but I don't think that's what made them stay. What made people
You know what's funny? I don't even, like, remember that. I don't think I even knew that existed. I haven't reached that part. I was just, like, a kid playing this game. It's like, that's it.
stay was the world itself. And that
I didn't
feeling
even
that
reach
every
the
time you
exciting
logged in,
stuff.
You were part of something active.
I just love roaming the world.
If there's one system that really defines Silk Road, it's the job system. Trader, hunter, and thief. And this is where the game becomes hard to
Always choose
explain,
thief.
because it wasn't just PvP for the sake of PvP. There was actual money on the line. If you were a trader, you had to buy goods in one city, load them onto your transport, and physically move them across the map to sell them somewhere else. And once you left town, that was it. You were exposed. There was no queue, no safe instance, no clean little battleground where everyone agreed to fight for 10 minutes and then go back to normal. You were out there in the world with your own gold sitting on that transport, hoping you actually made it to the other side. And if thieves caught you, you didn't just lose the fight. You lost the gold you put into the run, you lost the time it took to even get there. That's what made it feel different. Because when a trade worked, it felt amazing. You made it across the map, sold your goods, and got paid. But when it went wrong, it actually hurt. And I think that's something that a lot of modern PvP games don't really have anymore. Most of the time now, you queue up, you fight.
Wait, was Ashes of Creation was trying to do this? Yeah, they have. They, you know, I heard they're still working on it. It's a work in progress, but I haven't been updated, you know, for a couple of months. So anyone can tell me, like, how did it go? Steven Sharif is still working on the game, right? Surely.
You die, you respawn, and move on. In Silk Road, you remembered who'd robbed you, and you definitely remembered where it happened. Hunters were supposed to protect the traders, but that role wasn't just standing there looking useful in a job suit. You actually had to pay attention. You had to react quickly, focus the right targets, and stay organized. If the hunters were good, the trade run felt controlled. You still knew something could go wrong, but at least you felt like your group had a chance. If the hunters were bad, it felt like you were just politely escorting your own funeral. Because one wrong fight, one bad call, and one thief group
Man, it
catching
looks
you at
really
the wrong
fun.
spot could wipe the whole
It
thing.
actually looks kind of
And
fun. I'm
thief
not
was
a
completely
PvP
different
Andy.
mindset. You weren't always trying to run in and overpower everyone right away. Sometimes you were trying to split the group.
Yeah, imagine you have, like, the poor people that tries to, like, conquer the rich guys with all of the buffs from the cash shop. That would be funny. That would be kind of funny.
Sometimes you were baiting the hunters away.
Really enjoying your
Sometimes you were
latest
just
videos,
following from a
GeneralApple. Thank
distance,
you,
waiting
brother.
for one person
I
to get
appreciate
lazy.
that.
Then the goods dropped, and suddenly everything
I'm
changed.
trying.
That was the moment thieves were waiting for, and this is what made the system so good. The conflict happened naturally. You didn't just press a button and get matched against random players. You just left town, picked a route, and hoped the wrong people weren't watching. Over time, you started learning the map in a completely different way. Not just understanding where the mobs were, but where the danger spots were, where thieves like to sit. Where
You're gonna
certain
blow
guilds
up
usually
soon?
waited, which
I
roads
hope
were
you mean on
safer,
YouTube.
and which shortcuts weren't worth it. Sometimes taking the longer route made more sense just because you knew one guild was always camping the obvious path. And once the fight started, it wasn't just about spamming
But
skills.
thank you.
You had to coordinate. You focused the right players so kills actually mattered. You timed buffs properly. You protected the transport. You tried not to get pulled away from the caravan like an idiot. Even though, let's be honest, most of us did at some point. Every role had these little decisions that made it interesting. As a hunter, sometimes you couldn't save everyone, so you had to protect the main part of the caravan. As a trader, sometimes spreading out was smarter than stacking, because at least then one bad fight didn't ruin everything. As a thief, sometimes you took what you could and left instead of getting greedy and losing it all. And then you had the alias system, which made everything even messier. When you put on a job suit, your name changed. Some people made it obvious who they were,
so
other people hid
cool.
it completely. And honestly, wearing a job suit almost felt like putting on a mask. It took some of the evil feeling out of robbing someone, because you weren't really showing up as your normal character anymore. You were stepping into a different role, under a different name, doing what the role was built to do. Or maybe I was just a psychopath. But either way, it made the whole thing feel
Could
more
be.
playful and less personal. So you could rob someone during a trade run, take their goods, and then later end up in a drop party with them like nothing ever happened. Until
I would have changed my name to someone else's. That way, not only I get to hide my identity, I put the blame on someone else and I'll never get caught. Easy money.
they figured it out. And when they did, trust me, everyone heard about it. That's the kind of stuff that made Silkroad feel social in a way that wasn't always clean or friendly, but it was memorable. The system also kind of balanced itself over time. So if there were too many thieves, traders stopped running, which meant there was nothing to steal. If trade runs became too safe, more players switched to thief because it looked like easy money. So the game didn't always need to force the conflict. The players created it themselves. And that's why the job system still stands out to me. It was simple on paper. There were only 3 roles: trader, hunter, and thief. But in Silk Road, losing didn't just mean you lost a fight. It meant you lost something you actually cared about. The only thing I've played that felt even remotely similar was Call of Duty Black Ops 1 wager matches. If you remember those, you weren't just playing for fun. You were gambling your in-game currency, and if you lost, it was gone. Silk Road felt like that, but bigger. Because
I don't even remember
you
that.
weren't just risking gold. You were risking hours. And that's why it felt different.
Damn, okay. That was a pause.
Another thing that kept Silk Road interesting for so long was build identity. And this is one of those things that sounds boring until you actually play the game. Because in Silk Road, especially on the Chinese side, you weren't just picking a weapon and calling it a day. You were building around masteries like fire, cold, lightning, and force. And each one changed how your character actually played. Fire gave you physical damage and magical defensive buffs. Cold made you tankier and more physically defensive. Lightning gave you speed and stronger magical damage. And Force added utility, with debuffs, healing, and resurrection. So your build wasn't just a preference, it kind of became who you were in the game. And over time, you started recognizing players just by how they looked. If you saw a spear, you expected burst damage. If you saw a blader, you already knew that fucking guy was going to be impossible to kill. If you saw a bow, you were probably waiting for the crit. And that mattered, especially in group fights, because knowing what someone could do helped you decide who needed to die first. The other thing is, changing builds wasn't something most people did casually. For some reason, it was always incredibly expensive to change builds. The game really locked you into what you picked at the start. It either took a ton of time and gold, or you had to pay with silk. So usually if someone wanted to create a new build, they would just end up creating an entirely new character. And I think that made your character feel more personal. You weren't constantly swapping into whatever was strongest that week. For a lot of players, your build became your identity. You were the blade.
That's really good. I actually do enjoy that. World of Warcraft kind of used to have that, like the commitment to your character and your identity. It's what solidified World of Warcraft character and class identity being so good today. I'm glad that Silk Road actually done that. Like, I don't remember any of it. I was just a kid playing. So most of my memories are just from, like, you know, killing regular monsters, doing some quests and running around the cities. But this is great. Like, I'm learning a lot of things I didn't even knew back in the day. Like, that's awesome, dude. That's great.
You were the spear nuker. You were the force guy everyone hated fighting. And that made fights more interesting because you understood what everyone was bringing into them. But the real depth showed up in group fights. That's where Silk Road became more than just gear and damage numbers. You had to focus the right targets, usually the healers first because otherwise kills didn't really stick. You had to time buffs properly instead of just using everything at once, and you had to play around your group instead of only reacting what was happening to you. And that's where coordinated groups could beat players with better gear. Not always, obviously, gear still mattered a lot, but if one side was organized and the other side was just running around trying to be the hero, you could feel the difference immediately. A lot of players still point to 80 cap as the era where everything came together, and I get why. STR builds became more viable, bowers became serious threats, force builds added another layer with debuffs and utility. It felt like the game had more options
I don't know what
without
any of this
completely
means.
losing its shape. Then European classes came in later,
Oh,
and
nice
that
class.
changed everything. A proper European party could be insanely strong, because every role had a purpose. You had warriors, rogues, wizards, clerics, bards, warlocks, and when the party actually worked together, it felt like a machine. That strength came with a trade-off. European builds depended way more on coordination. If the group was organized, they were terrifying. If the group wasn't organized, they could fall apart fast. And they were usually not as comfortable solo compared to Chinese builds. That's part of why I've always leaned more towards Chinese characters. I like being able to do my own thing. I like being able to grind solo, PvP solo, join a group when I want, but not feel completely useless without a perfect party around me. Chinese builds just felt more natural to me in that way, and honestly they were usually simpler to maintain too. Some European builds needed multiple weapons, multiple setups, and a lot more SP. Meanwhile, something like a Glaive or a bow build is pretty straightforward. You know what you are, you hit hard, you try not to die, simple enough. But if you look at modern private servers now, everything is way more optimized. Players already know what works, they know the best builds, they know the fastest routes, they know what gets in parties. So you end up seeing a lot of people make the safe choice. Wizard Cleric. It's probably the easiest example. It's strong, it levels fast, it gets in parties, and it gives you a clear path forward. So even if someone wants to play something more niche, they might avoid it because they know finding parties will be harder unless they're fully geared. And that's changed the feel of the game over time. The knowledge is deeper now, the builds are more refined, players are much better at understanding what actually works, but there's also less mystery. Back then, people were experimenting more. Some builds were terrible, some were genius, and half the time you didn't even know which was which until someone destroyed you outside of town. Now, private servers keep all these eras alive at once. You can play 40 cap, 60 cap, 80 cap, 100 cap, or whatever version of Silkroad you miss the most. But the game isn't as experimental as it used to be. It still feels familiar, it still feels like Silkroad, but now everyone shows up with years of knowledge already in their head. And that makes the game cleaner, more competitive, and probably more balanced in some ways. But I do think it lost a little bit of that old feeling and charm where nobody really knew what the perfect answer was yet.
Section
If
5,
the job
the
system was
grind.
the heart of Silkroad, the grind was the backbone. And honestly,
There we go.
the grind was brutal. Experience was slow, drops were rare, and early on most of us weren't following some perfect guide that told us exactly where to go, what to kill, and how to build our character. You mostly just figured it out as you went. A lot of the game was just killing mobs for hours, and I know that sounds terrible because it kind of was, but the way you did it changed everything. If you were solo, it was simple. You found a spot, used your skills, picked up your drops, and kept going. But in a good party, the game felt completely different. You needed healing, you needed buffs, you needed damage. You needed someone pulling properly so the party wasn't just standing around wasting time. And if one of those pieces was missing, you felt it right away. That's why people became selective with parties. It wasn't always because they were trying to be rude. It was because if the party was bad, everyone leveled slower. But when you had a good group, it actually flowed. People knew their roles, the pulls were clean, Zerk got used at the right time, giants went down fast, and the experience kept moving. And then you had SP
And the
farming,
abilities
which is
actually
where
look
Silkroad started
really
to get a
good
little
for the
ridiculous.
time.
Because leveling up didn't automatically mean your character was good. You needed skill points. So a lot of players would slow their leveling down on purpose just to farm more SP. I'm going to give you guys all a flashback with one word. Ongs. The most iconic power leveling spot in all of video game history for me. Ongs became one of the most classic spots for farming SP. People would sit there for hours, sometimes days, farming skill points before they even really played the game normally. Some players even de-leveled on purpose just to stay there longer. It's
so crazy. The same exact thing happened in like MapleStory. You farm experience in the same spot for ages, and I literally had my cousin, which was a huge MapleStory addict, just put a nail clipper on his keyboard, spamming the same ability over and over again, just to get infinite XP. By the way, they disabled it in one of the patches. But old MapleStory, you could have done that. Nowadays, if you're not moving for, I think, 5 seconds, the game automatically disables your character. Like, you need to move. You need to be constantly moving. But that's just a funny memory I have from back in the day. Yeah, games are so much more fun when builds and metas are undiscovered. Not always, but a lot of times it just is. 100%. You're 100% right about this. But unfortunately, the meta is about to be solved in every single aspect. It's just a matter of time, right? In every single game, too. Like, you can't do anything about this. Unfortunately, Blizzard aren't really keen on encrypting their code, so their meta is being solved before the game even ships. It's just being data mined, and that's it. Like, you're cooked. But I agree, 100%.
Sounds insane when you say it out loud. But in Silk Road, that was completely normal. And there's one more part of the Silk Road grind that sounds insane unless you played it. Botting. In almost every other game, botting gets you banned. In Silk Road, it
Some things never change, boys. Some things never change.
somehow became the normal way to play. Joymax tried to stop it a few times, but the attempts were usually weak. They would place powerful enemies near town exits to block common bot routes. It would work for about a day, and then the botters would just adjust. Eventually, it felt like Joymax just accepted that bots were part of the game, and it wasn't unusual for one player to control 2, 10, or even 20 plus characters alongside their main. Those extra accounts farmed gold, elixirs, and equipment to fund the character that they actually cared about. You could find entire guilds filled with nothing but gold bots and alt accounts.
Man,
I remember PH
it looks like
predicting that
retail.
my next level would take
crazy.
something like 27 days.
How did they got that footage?
27 days. But checking the bot was genuinely exciting. You would leave it overnight, come back, search the inventory for a good drop, and see how much progress you had made. Silk Road became the ultimate background grinding game, and strangely, it didn't make the game less social. While the bot handled the repetitive grind, you talked with your guild, watched global chat, helped other players, or played something else. In most games, botting means you're not playing. In Silk Road, it somehow became part of playing. You weren't grinding levels, you were preparing your character for the game you actually wanted to play later. And that's the funny thing. Hitting max level wasn't really the end goal. In a lot of ways, that was when the real game started. That was when you actually cared about gear, PvP, jobbing, guild fights, uniques, alchemy, and all the stuff people actually remember. The grind itself was repetitive, but it created something else. It created community. Our leveling became a huge part of the game. Higher level players would taxi lower level players, sometimes for gold, sometimes just because they were friends, and sometimes just because they felt like helping. I still remember getting free taxi when I was younger and thinking it was the coolest thing ever. I even remember saying to myself that once I hit max level, I'm going to come back here to Ongs and do my own free power level. And finally when I got there, I did. And I know that's such a small thing, but that stuff sticks with you. Even PvE had this competitive side to it. People were always farming for rare jobs, especially seal gear, and when someone linked a good item in global chat, the whole server noticed. Uniques were the same way. They weren't just PvE bosses, they were races. Everyone was trying to get there first, deal the most damage, and get the kill announcement. So even when you were just fighting a monster, it still felt connected to the rest of the server. But honestly, the thing people remember most isn't the mechanics, it's the people. The friends you played with every day, the people you ran caravans with, the ones you argued about builds with, the ones you stayed up way too late grinding with even though you knew you had work or school the next morning. Hot Staffer, Kamikaze, Shinigami, Theo
Nice
55,
names.
Soccer Sam, Gore Beast, Kyler Wandy, and of course, my own character, Grumped. Those weren't just random names on a screen. Those were the people I played the game with.
It's crazy. It's crazy how he hit the nail right on the head there. This game was so communal, as it seems to me, at least from his video, because, you know, I was a kid, I didn't really know anything. And, like, it just reminds me of World of Warcraft. It just reminds me of World of Warcraft. The beauty of WoW was always the world and its people. Nowadays, it's completely gone in retail, and not only that, retail mentality has seeped into Classic, so even if you play Classic, it's not the same. It's just not, because we live in an era of information, and if you're not following a specific guide and you don't have like 6 best in slot items, they won't even accept you for a raid if you don't have your pre-bis. It's such a damn shame. I wish I could experience World of Warcraft as it was back in the day. I don't care about the add-ons, I don't care about Questy. I really just wish I was there at the time, man. It sucks. Like, how did I miss that? Imagine being poor. Yeah, looks like, wait, what? Season 3 and Season 4 maps of Guild Wars 2, really? Yeah, the discovery period of MMOs is dead. Top guilds are almost like a business with RMT and farms, so they do it for the cash. I know. It sucks. I said, MMORPGs should have never been turned into an esport. I hate, like, looking at method and all that stuff. It's fun maybe from time to time, but honestly, it's just sad. It's like MMOs aren't like that. They never were. Like, Blizzard are trying to force it and cultivate an audience that is the 1%ers because they're idiots. And I guess these guys are just, you know, paying the most because they're essentially whales. And the rest are just bots. Players like us are being alienated from the game and we're being ostracized. They essentially turned us into pariahs in our own MMO. It's not fun anymore. That's why I don't play retail. That's why I don't even play Classic. I'm just here sitting and praying that Classic Plus would come out and it would be half as good as Turtle WoW was. Because Turtle WoW was the only game that recently made me feel this way.
That's the part that stays with you.
Yeah, I don't trust streamers with their opinions on Classic. They just want to no friction for some reason. They want friction just on their channel. They want all the money and they want to pad their wallets. They're not even playing with their viewers, really. It's sad. It's pathetic. But it is what it is. And that's why I'm here to kind of like change that, right? Because I'm playing with my viewers every single day. And that's the fun thing in the world. Now I do it nowadays in Guild Wars 2 because World of Warcraft doesn't have a version that I actually enjoy. But that's how you should do it, in my opinion. You shouldn't, like, you know, just ask gold from your viewers and that's it. Like, that's their only use case, to milk them. But again, that's why I'm constantly calling out streamers. They're garbage. Never give them anything. Just enjoy the show. That's it. Yeah, everything has become so antisocial, even with the post-modern social system.
Fortress War was where everything came together. This was where the game stopped feeling like random fights in the world and started feeling like actual server politics. Guilds didn't show up casually. They recruited for it. They built proper unions and planned around it. And sometimes, guilds that actually hated each other would still team up for one fight just to take down whoever was dominating the server. And the reason Fortress mattered so much was simple. Taxes. If your guild owned the fortress, you made money from the activity connected to that town. So every trader using that area was basically helping fund your guild. That gold could go right back into gear, alchemy, and making your strongest players even stronger. So once a guild got ahead, it could really start to snowball.
The rich getting richer, baby.
But Fortress wasn't about having the most people. You needed an actual setup. enough healing, enough damage, enough support, enough players who understood what they were supposed to do. Because if your composition was bad, you felt it immediately. And when Fortress started, it looked like complete chaos at first. Players everywhere, skills going off, people dying, guilds pushing in from different sides.
I'm surprised the game actually managed to kind of hold. Oh, never mind.
Some groups were pushing together, some
he
were
seemed to be
space,
desyncing.
some were trying to pick off key players, some were just running in and dying instantly, which, to be fair, was also a role a lot of us played at some point. My old guildmaster used to say, "A nuke in you was better than a nuke in me." And honestly, he was kind of right. I still tell lower level guild members in mind that.
That's actually a good one.
A nuke in them is better than a nuke in me. Owning a fortress changed how the server felt. If one guild was in control, people started playing around them. Traders felt safer running with the dominant group, so bigger caravans formed around them. But that also made them a target. Other guilds would switch roles just to disrupt them, rob their trades, or slow down their progress. And that's where the politics came in. If you pushed too hard, everyone started coming after you. If you played too safe, you fell behind. So every strong guild had to balance growth, reputation, alliances, and enemies at the same time. And that's one of the things I always found interesting about Silkroad. Servers didn't feel anonymous. You knew who the strong players were. You knew which guilds mattered. You knew who talked in global chat, who actually backed it up, and who disappeared the second things got serious. When people talk about Silkroad, they usually don't just say, "I played Silkroad." They say what server they were on. Because the server was part of your identity. The guilds, the rivalries, the big spenders, the Fortress War owners, the people everyone hated, the people everyone respected. That was the game. And global chat made sure nobody forgot anything. If you talked big and failed, people remembered. If you won, people remembered that too. So Fortress wasn't just about gold. It was about owning a structure on the map. It was about reputation.
And World of Warcraft, again, I'm gonna bring it as an example, like I always do. WoW used to be like that. WoW used to be like that. You knew who the best PvP Andy was. You knew who was the best like guild leader. You knew who was the best raid leader. You knew every single thing. And you even had a blacklist. Like if you ninja looted something, people would have known on your server. Nowadays, you can ninja loot anything live on stream and people won't care. It's just because the game became so big, right? And everyone's playing on the same server. It's just so frustrating, man. It's just so disheartening.
About proving your guild was the one people had to take seriously.
Yeah, I miss the pre-mount days of Guild Wars 2. Everything was so much harder, but it felt fun too. Exactly.
If Fortress was about reputation, Alchemy was where the risk became personal. Because at some point, every Silkroad player has stared at an item and had the same stupid thought. One more plus. That's where the system gets dangerous. Every item starts at +0, and you upgrade it step by step. Early on, it doesn't feel that bad. You hit +3, +4, maybe +5, and you start feeling confident. And then the game reminds you.
No, I never understood the obsession of Eastern MMO game developers of making something breaks whenever you're trying to enchant it. Like, how is that a good system? I never got it. It's so cringe to me. Just make it fun. Like, why you make such a weird, contrived, obscure system? For the sake of grinding more, just make the game fun and people would continue sub to you or whatever. Especially if the game is, like, free to play. But if you sell, like, safety nets, dog, that's so deplorable, I can actually admire that.
You that confidence was a mistake. Because once you get into higher pluses, especially around +8 and above, every click starts to feel serious. If you fail, you didn't just lose
you're sweating bullets right now.
You literally go all the way back to 0. So now you're sitting there asking yourself if one small upgrade is really worth risking something you spent days or weeks building. And the worst part is, you already know the smart answer. Don't click it. But you click it anyway. There are ways to protect yourself, but a lot of that protection comes from the item mall, and that means Silk, and Silk means real money. So yeah, this is where the pay to win part becomes impossible to ignore. Some players just buy upgraded gear instead of risking it themselves, and honestly, I get it. It's safer, it's cleaner, it probably saves your sanity, but there's something different about making your own weapon. When you hit a high plus yourself and your name shows up, it isn't just about the stats anymore. It feels like you survived something. You took the risk, the game didn't destroy you for once, and now everyone on the server gets to see it. Then you've got blue and white stats layered on top of that. So even if two players have the same weapon, they aren't really the same. One has better strength, intelligence, crit, block, parry, or whatever else, and suddenly that small difference matters in fights. And that's how the gap keeps growing. And then there's this weird psychology side of Alchemy, which might be my favorite part. Because players start developing rituals. They go to a certain town, they stand in a certain spot, they relog, they wait a few seconds, then they ask someone else to click it for them. They say things like, this NPC is lucky, even though deep down we all know that this is probably complete nonsense. But when one click can ruin weeks of progress, of course people want to feel like they have some control. That's what Alchemy did. It turned upgrading gear into this mix of gambling, superstition, pain, and pure dopamine. And spending fed directly into that. Most players spent something, even if it wasn't a crazy amount. It was easier to justify because the game itself was free. You weren't paying a subscription, so buying a little silk here and there didn't feel that bad. At least that's what everyone told themselves. But at the higher end, it got extreme. Some players spent heavily right at the start of the server just to get ahead, and once they were ahead, it became hard to give that up, because at that point it wasn't just about gear anymore, it was identity. Better gear meant dominance. Dominance meant reputation, and reputation kept you at the center of the server. I've even heard rumors of some players spending over $30,000 in a single server. So even though the system was clearly pay to win, it also made the game more intense. I'm not saying that made it fair, it definitely didn't, but it made more people care, because when time, gold, reputation, and real money are all tied to the same item, every upgrade feels bigger than it probably should. And that's why Alchemy was so addictive. It was terrible, it was unfair, it made no sense, and somehow everyone still wanted to click one more time.
It was Gamba. That was it.
Fucking let's go. Let's go.
He's clicking
Oh
it.
my god.
You guys are gaslighters.
Classic.
At this
Private
point, we have to
servers.
talk about private servers, because that's where most of modern Silkroad lives now. And if you've played private servers for long enough, you know exactly the type of player that shows up every time. The server hopper. The guy who joins every new launch, goes hard for 2 or 3 weeks, talks like this is finally the server, and then disappears the second things slow down. And honestly,
Yes.
I kind of get it, because for a lot of people, Silkroad isn't really a long-term game anymore. It's a cycle. You join at launch, you race the cap, you farm, you do fortress, you push some alchemy, you get involved in whatever guild drama is happening, and then after a month or two, the server starts to slow down. People quit, the economy changes, 1 or 2 groups starts pulling ahead, and suddenly everyone is looking at the next launch. So nobody really quits, they just rotate. Official servers still exist, but most of the community moved toward private servers because they offer more control. And for me, I actually got pushed into private servers in the worst way possible. You're probably still wondering why at the beginning of this video I said Silkroad may have ruined my life. When I was around 12, I was playing Silkroad R on the JoyMax server Merv with my cousins and my brothers. At that point, I had already been on the server for a couple of years, and
God
somehow
damn.
over the time I had built a ridiculous gold bot army. I'm talking over 100 characters. I think I had something like 12 gold bot parties over level 101, running basically all day through PH bot. And the crazy part
Man,
is,
this guy's a
I had
G.
never spent a single dollar of money on Silk. My main character, Grumped, was completely decked out. For a kid who hadn't spent anything, he was a beast. I had multiple guilds that were basically just there for extra storage, because I had so much loot coming in that I needed places to organize it all. And then one day, I got a message from some guy trying to sell his set. He sent me a link, and because I was a clueless 12-year-old, I clicked
Oh,
it. Somehow he got me to
no.
run a .exe file, and I didn't think much of it at the time. So the next morning, I woke up and everything was gone. He had keylogged my entire computer.
Oh my god. Oh shit, dude. That must have been devastating. You know what? At least he learned an important lesson that day. Never click suspicious links. Yep, he learned it. But man, that gotta sting.
My main character was stripped. Most of my accounts had their passwords changed. The ones I still had access to were cleaned too. And it wasn't just Silkroad either. He even tried to withdraw the only $50 I had made from YouTube at the time out of my PayPal account. I remember
Bro.
logging into Grumped and just seeing him standing there with nothing. No gear, no items, nothing. And the worst part was seeing the hacker in Hope 10 selling my own items for way less than they were worth. That one hurt. I know it sounds quite dramatic, but that genuinely broke me as a kid. I reached out to JoyMax hoping they could help, and they were completely useless. I remember getting some ridiculous response that basically did nothing.
What? Is that real? Oh, sorry, bro. Get GG, get wrecked, child. Nah, okay.
And I was so mad that I just started cussing them out because I couldn't understand how they were no help at all. After that, I gave a bunch of the characters I still had access to over to my best friend in Silkroad at the time, Forrest, who was an absolute legend. Then I wiped my computer, stopped playing, and didn't touch Silkroad for a very long time. The whole thing is actually documented in my old uploads, but I still don't like watching that video back. I actually haven't watched it
really?
back since I made it. Every time I try to, it makes me sick to my stomach. Some sort of PTSD or trauma, I guess, that I should maybe explore.
So that's why he was gone for like 8 years? Because he was hacked and his love for Silkroad kind of died after that? I can actually feel that. Dude, what a great comeback story. My
But
god.
looking back, it was kind of a blessing in disguise. That hack basically ended my official JoyMax run. And as bad as it felt, it pushed me into the private server world. Because after spending years building characters on official servers, suddenly I found servers where you could reach max level in days or weeks instead of grinding for literal years. And honestly, if I never got hacked, I might still be running those same characters on Merv to this day. That is the weird thing about Silkroad. I've heard so many stories like this. People getting hacked, scammed, cleaned out, losing years of progress, swearing they were done forever, and somehow a lot of them still come back. Maybe not to the same server, maybe not right away, but eventually the game found a way to pull them back in. And that's where private servers started to make sense. You can choose the cap, the rates, the balance, and most importantly, you get a fresh start. And that fresh start is a huge part of the appeal. Everyone begins from zero again. No inflated economy, no established players sitting on years of gear, no one controlling everything before the server even starts. Just a clean race to get ahead. And for a lot of players, that first week is still one of the most exciting parts of Silk Road. The towns are packed, everyone is leveling, everyone's broke, everyone is trying to figure out who's going to be strong. And for a little while, the game feels alive again. But
And for that exact same reason, I think that's why so many people are excited for Classic Plus. I think a lot of people like me are looking at Classic Plus as a sort of a clean slate to reset the whole universe kind of thing. We're excited to the maximum for it because I wasn't there for the initial WoW release. I wasn't there. I came in Warlords of Draenor because, you know, I got my credit card whenever Warlords of Draenor was the new expansion. And I never got to see it full, like, on hand, right? Because, you know, the classic re-release was really, really good, but it wasn't the real thing. That's why I'm excited for Classic Plus. I really want to see those servers being fully queued up again. I want to see everyone at the starting zone running like headless chickens, trying to get some quests, killing the same NPCs, talk to the same people, have a lot of laughs and jokes. I really miss that. I had that in Turtle WoW. I was there for Turtle WoW release when they released Embershire server, and that was glorious. I really am looking forward to seeing that again. That is the best feeling in the entire world.
the private server scene is mixed. Some servers are generally trying to last, some are built around seasons, and some are obvious cash grabs where you can feel the reset coming before the server even opens. So finding a good one really comes down to build balance, acing, and GMs you can actually trust. And that trust matters because the private server
Happy
scene
Friday,
has
bro.
always had a
Thank
shady
you.
side. Some GMs make backdoor deals
I love
with big
streaming
guilds
Fridays,
just to get them
even
to join
nobody's
at launch.
here.
Sometimes that means silk
Everyone's
items
touching
or
grass.
private advantages behind the scenes because a few famous guilds can
You
make a
guys
server
need to
look
be
way
more
active than
unemployed.
it actually is. And sometimes even the player count itself is questionable. You hear stories about servers inflating numbers with bot characters hidden in areas regular players can't access, just so the website makes the server look healthier than
A
it
private
actually
server
is.
would never
That is
do
the
that.
problem with private servers. When the management is good, the game can feel amazing. But when players start to think the server is rigged, fake, or just built to collect early donations and close after a few weeks, trust disappears fast. Then you have the gold farming side, which is a whole different layer. On some servers, players aren't just playing casually. They're treating the game like income. Typically, we call these players gold bots. They'll progress to a certain point where they can compete, and then every additional gold they make, they'll sell for real money. Because in countries where Silkroad is super popular like Egypt and Turkey, getting a few US dollars here and there can make a big difference in their lives. You'll see constant caravans, bot parties running non-stop, and sometimes multiple people rotating on the same account just to keep it active. And once in-game progress can turn into real money,
Wait, what?
people rotating on
Selling 5k silk for $4k. Jeez, that's crazy. My
the
god.
same account just to keep it active. And once in-game progress can turn into real money, the game changes.
Maybe
A
Silk
trade run
Road
isn't
is
just a trade run
profitable.
anymore. A lost caravan isn't just annoying. For some players, that's actual income gone. And that's the part of why
Don't
these
let him
fights can
run.
get so
Don't let
intense.
him run.
Holy fuck, let's fucking go!
He's fine, guys.
Because not everyone is playing for the same reason. Some people are playing for nostalgia, some are playing for PvP, some are playing for status, some are playing to make money, and all of these players end up in the same world, fighting over the same systems. And that's what makes private server Silk Road so weird. It's nostalgic, but it's also way more optimized. It's familiar, but it's also more competitive. Everyone wants that old feeling again, but everyone shows up with years of knowledge, better tools, and way less patience. And with all of that in mind, I think the best advice is actually pretty simple. If you find a good server, it's usually better to stay. Because a lot of players keep jumping from server to server looking for the perfect one, but most servers are built around the same basic cycle. What people are really chasing is that feeling of a fresh start. And I get it, that early launch phase is addictive. But if you stay somewhere, you actually build something. You build your gear, you build your reputation, you learn the players around you, and most importantly, you build relationships. Because Silk Road is always better when you're playing with people. If your group is active, you can make almost any decent server feel alive. You're running caravans together, fighting together, helping each other, arguing over builds, backing each other up, and creating your own version of the game. So I don't think the secret is finding the perfect server. That probably doesn't exist. The real thing is finding the right people to play with. Because in Silk Road, the server matters, but the people are what make you stay. After breaking everything down, I think this is the real question. Why does Silk Road still matter? Because on paper it probably shouldn't. There are so many MMOs now with better graphics, smoother combat, cleaner systems, better tutorials.
Yes. Oh, damn. Tier maker. Let's see. Okay, let's pause and have a glimpse. So, on S tier, we have Guild Wars 2, WoW Classic, Elder Scrolls Online. Hell no, brother. Put that shit way down. And if that's retail, this guy's cooked. A tier, we have Lord of the Rings Online. I still need to play it. Black Desert Online, hell no. Albion, I need to play it. FF14, yeah, sure, I guess. I heard Dawn Trail was kind of bad. But sure, dude, DC Universe in B, bro, put it in S tier. Put it in S tier. It's one of the only few MMORPGs I've actually reached max level in. It was such a trash game, but I enjoyed it so much.
And way more polish. But for some reason,
I love DC
none
more
of them
than
really
anything.
feel like Silkroad. And I think a lot of players have gone through that. You try other games.
God
You
tier.
look for something that scratches the same itch, and eventually you realize the annoying answer. There kind of isn't one. A big part of that is the job system. Trader, hunter, and thief. That one system gave the game something
Well, there's that Ashes of Creation thing. That's very similar.
most MMOs don't really have anymore. Risk. In
You can
most
pay
modern
for the
games, you
early
queue up,
alpha
you fight,
if you want.
You die, you respawn, and then
I
you
heard
move
it was
on.
really good.
Nothing really follows you. But in Silk Road, if you lost a caravan, you didn't just lose a fight. You lost the gold you invested and the time it took to earn it. If you failed Alchemy, you could lose weeks of progress in one click. If your guild lost Fortress, you lost income, control, and status. And if you embarrassed yourself in global chat, good luck, because people were absolutely going to remember. That's what made the game feel different. Your name actually meant something. Your guild meant something. Your reputation followed you around the server. And I think that is what made everything feel more real. Wins felt better because they mattered.
Nice. Hello. Look at hello. Nice. Beautiful. Good job.
Very fucking.
Oh, his name is Hello. Yo, dude, that's so confusing. His name is Hello and it's like, hello. Wait, that's actually clever. What the? That's insane. Bro, that guy was meta thinking. He's playing 4D chess. That's actually insane. Wait, I need to play DC Universe Online. I just saw Supergirl today. My condolences.
Losses hit harder because
But
they
don't play
mattered
DC
too.
Universe,
Even though
please
Silk Road
don't.
is simple and repetitive in a lot of ways.
Do yourself a
everything
favor.
connects. The grind feeds the gear feeds the PvP. The PvP feeds the
It was
job
only
system.
as good
The
as I
job
remembered
system
it
feeds
to
the
be.
The economy feeds the guilds feed the politics. And somehow, all of that turns this old clunky MMO into something that feels alive when the server is active. That's the part that's hard to replace. But it isn't just the combat, it isn't just the music, it isn't just the nostalgia. It's the feeling that everything you're doing is connected to everyone else. And once you've experienced that, it's hard to find it somewhere else. You might not be playing right now. Maybe life got busy, maybe you
Oh
moved
my
on.
god, that
Maybe you've told
old-
yourself very
oh,
confidently that you're
shit.
completely done with this game. And honestly, maybe you are, for now. But then it happens again. An old friend messages you, a new server launches, you see one clip, and suddenly you feel it. That stupid little itch. So you tell yourself in the same lie everyone tells themselves, I'm just gonna check it out. Just for a few days. Nothing serious. And then somehow you're right back in it.
God bless. God bless, dude. What a fantastic video. My
Because with
god.
Silk Road, I don't think most people truly quit. They just take really long breaks.
That's it. Wow, dude. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I can't believe this video was recommended to me by YouTube. I haven't even searched for Silk Road in ages. I don't even know how they knew me. I think they're actually listening to like my streams or something. Dude, that was such a phenomenal video. Phenomenal video. Absolutely perfect. Wow, I'm gonna leave you guys a link, so you should, you know, click on it. Obviously, give them a like. That was incredible. Like, this person, wow, came after 8 years and made such a banger of a video for a game barely anyone remembers, simply for the pure, like, sanity of it. I don't even know how to call it. Just pure joy. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's incredible.